Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. Week 3 is in the book. It just ended a couple of minutes ago. The final 38-30. The Detroit Lions go on the road. They win in Baltimore. The Lions are now 2-1. Very early in the season. A lot of games yesterday that we'll talk about. A game on Thursday that doesn't have playoff implications, but it certainly has implications in terms of the AFC East. And we're going to go over all of that. We're not going to talk about the offensive lines today, right, Joey? We're not going to do it because you said everything that we needed to know last week, and the offensive line play was so much better for some of the teams that we were criticizing. They listened. They heard you. They made some amends, and they corrected some things. But a good week by and large, all fun aside. Lots of fun games, lots of exciting games, lots of down-to-the-wire games. For a guy like me, special teams, Joey, your thought here on week number 3.
Hey, if you like special teams, then this was your week. 4 games decided by special teams play at the end of the game. 9 games that were really decided toward the last couple plays of games. So if you like National Football League games, this was your week.
Brian, if I don't want a kick blocked against me and have it returned into the end zone and my lead disappears, was this a good week for me?
No.
No,
And then Jalen Carter's your worst enemy because you got 2 of them. So
right.
You don't like that guy.
No, unbelievable. Well, a good week nonetheless. Week 3 is in the books, and let's take a look now at some of the action that took place here. We're going to talk about the NFL. First of all, let's start on Thursday night's game. That begins with Miami going to Buffalo. Guys, I'll be candid with you. Miami, you said for a couple weeks now, they look weaker than Circus Lemonade. Tua had a pretty good game, 22 of 34, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was not sacked. They rushed for 130 yards, Joey, but nonetheless, Josh Allen ended up pulling this one out. 31-21 was the final.
Yeah, it's a divisional game. I mean, Miami, they played with a lot of pride. They showed a lot of effort and a lot of grit in this game. They were really overmatched, to be quite honest with you. But Buffalo has a lot of the tools you need to go a long way. And Miami, again, they're 0-3. They fought hard. I think their next game is next Monday night versus the Jets, or Sunday night, whenever, versus the Jets. So, that'll be a big game as well for those guys.
Someone's going to get their first win of the season. How about that?
Absolutely. But, Tua made a crucial interception late in the game that really cost them the game. And that's unfortunate, and that's unfortunate for the head coach. Again, like I've said a couple weeks, I don't see this ending well for the head coach in Miami.
Well, if you're the head coach in Buffalo, even if my team doesn't really have a great game, they still end up winning by 10, 203 total yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for Josh Allen. They rushed for 157. They scored in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter. They got 10 points in the fourth to really ice it, and they win by 10. They're 3-0. Real quick, just the Bills are in cruise control right now. Even if they don't play their best game of the year, they still win by 10. That's a good feeling. Well,
Buffalo, the one thing Buffalo has, they have playmakers at each level. They have a pretty good core receivers, that's done by volume there. Obviously, they have a MVP caliber quarterback. They have a big-time running back. Defensively, they were missing their top defensive lineman and the top linebacker. However, Miami wasn't a huge threat to run the ball, so they were able to get by with backup guys. And in the secondary, their former first-round pick from a couple of years ago made a couple of really big plays for those guys. So, Buffalo's a really good team. And, again, once they get healthy and get back to full strength, they'll have a chance to go a long way.
Yeah. Brian, you would think that Miami goes, man, we get to play them in September when it's not 4 degrees out there, but nonetheless, another disappointing loss for the Dolphins.
Miami didn't really do a whole lot wrong. It's just they couldn't really get anything explosive. Tyreek Hill was under 50 yards. Waddle's under 50 yards. Devon Achane, I think he was right over 50 yards rushing. They didn't do a lot. Tua had 24 completions. I think it was for the tune of what? It was 146 yards. So everything was short. Everything was compact. They didn't block all that well up front. I mean, we talked about, like I said, the offensive lines last week, but kind of the spark of this Dolphins offense from a couple of years ago. I think we mentioned it last week. Tyreek Hill, he's not really the vertical threat he once was. Jalen Waddle isn't really getting down the field. Their tight ends, as far as Miami's concerned, they haven't really done anything all this year. I think they have the worst tight end production in the league. So it's just a perfect storm. You got to go into Buffalo, and realistically, Buffalo can kind of win however they want now, right? They can throw it all over the yard. They let James Cook really be in control. And when you can do that, when you have a running back, especially in a cold weather place like Buffalo, where teams are like, hey, we're going to have to run. It's going to be a gritty game. We're not even there yet, but they're just – Josh Allen didn't play his best game, but he had 3 touchdowns. They only punted twice.
He's got 2 really good young tight ends as well.
Yes, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Everyone talks about the Bears and who they got this year. I think Buffalo might be in the running for the best young tight end group, but I think
and in an offense that uses them with a lot more versatility than some of the others. By the way, Cook had 19 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. Not a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next game we're going to look at here, folks, is one of the ones that ended up in special teams. I had to admit I jumped up a little bit, Joey. I was pretty excited for the Browns. They were 0-2 going in this at home. They're not Philadelphia. They're not going to get booed, but there's some folks that are just waiting for something to happen. I mean, to beat the Packers of all teams, everyone is saying Packers are going to the Super Bowl. This is going to be an easy route for them. And to get 13 points in the fourth quarter and to do so by blocking a kick and returning it for, 15, 20 yards, whatever it is, and getting a field goal with no time on the clock, good for the Browns.
Green Bay, thus far through 3 games, have kind of played to the level of the competition. They'll play up versus Detroit. They'll play down the next week and play average the next week and play really down this week. The quarterback didn't play great this game. He had a crucial interception late in the game. And the one thing you can say about Cleveland is they can play defense. Defensively, not only do they have Myles Garrett, they have a young kid inside playing 3 technique who really causes havoc inside. And Green Bay's offensive line is kind of hit or miss right now. They have some guys out injured. Obviously, they have a couple corners in Cleveland. They have a safety, a kid from LSU who played really well. So defensively, if they could keep a game close, they can win games like this. And they were able
Joey,
to
talk about the relationship that you have when you can put pressure on the quarterback to either get him out of the pocket or throw a little bit early. I'm not necessarily taking chances, but I know I'm thinking I can take chances if I'm one of the 4 deep guys, one of the corners or either of the 2 safeties. I know they don't coach it that way, but you got to admit, when we know the ball is coming out, you might break a little bit early and try to get a pick.
Absolutely. Again, the key to defensive line play is forcing the quarterback off the spot, make him uncomfortable. And a lot of teams do that, when you can do that from inside and off the edge, then you have a real defensive plan. Because now you can force the quarterback to get rid of the ball when he's not ready to get rid of the ball. You can force him to one side or the other, and you can create blitzes from that. And Cleveland did a really good job versus Green Bay.
Yeah, Brian, Joey has spoken previously about getting pressure up the middle. It seems like the Browns defense gets enough, at least in this game, to get a team that was scoring 40 points a week to only get 10. So Jordan Love had 18 for 25, 183 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, but just one of those sloppy games on the road for the Packers.
Well, if you were to tell me Joe Flacco was 21 of 36 for 102 yards, or 142 yards and an interception. They didn't move the ball well through the air at all. Quinshon Judkins played really well. It was kind of nice to see him finally get on the field, and he played very, very well, but he was the offense. The Packers defense showed up. They did their job. They've done it all 3 weeks so far. But listen, Packers lose Jane Reed last week, right? We know Christian Watson isn't healthy. Tucker Kraft had an injury scare at practice on Thursday. I think they were kind of banged up coming in here, but even so, they probably should have still won this football game, especially if you're considering them, hey, they were the talk of the town, right? The first 2 weeks, we were all over the Packers. We were already ready to put them in the Super Bowl in February. But, man, that dude Myles Garrett is, if you watch the tape of this game, it's incredible. And you hate to say one guy can win you a football game, but he was disruptive all game. And not just in the passing attack either. Josh Jacobs, who's one of the best running backs in football and has been for, the greater part of the last 5 years, I think he averaged 2 yards a carry. I think he was held under 40 yards, which if you were to count how many times he's been held under 40 yards in the last few seasons, it'd probably be one hand, right? But he's just – Myles Garrett's something special. It doesn't really matter who else they have out there. They know when 95 is lined up on the end, they got a chance to win. It did take a special teams quote-unquote miracle, but it's good to see the Browns get a win, right? It's just you didn't expect it against the Packers. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, Packers are 2-1, Browns are 1-2, And let's see, Green Bay rushed for a total of 81 yards. Team that's 3-0 right now. Who would have thought that the Indianapolis Colts, they go to Tennessee. Titans are now 0-3, guys. 41-20 is the final there. Daniel Jones ends up with 228 yards. He averaged 9.1 yard per attempt there. One touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. They rushed for 137 yards, too. Brian, we'll start with you. Give me your thoughts here on the Colts. I know it's too early to crown them for anything, but 3-0 is a great start for this organization.
They're efficient. They're very efficient on the offensive side of the ball. Yards per carry, completion percentages, yards per attempt. Everyone's getting involved, too. The young kid, Tyler Warren, tight end for Penn State, he's been spectacular for them for the first 3 weeks. Michael Pittman, who after last season, a lot of people were ready to write him off. He's rejuvenated as well. He's been phenomenal in the red zone. I think you can make the argument right now that Jonathan Taylor might be the best running back in football. That offensive line just steamrolls people. You feel bad for the Titans, right? Because this is obviously a rebuilding year. They had the number 1 overall pick. They didn't have a ton of talent to begin with. They had some guys, right? But, the big acquisition was Cam Ward at the quarterback spot, and the offensive line is still lacking. A lot of the receivers aren't really playing all that well. So, the Colts went out and they took care of business. They were in the same kind of position as Green Bay, where they had a lot of eyeballs on them. A lot of people now kind of raising their expectations, saying, hey, this is a team we could see in January. They went against a lesser opponent, and they took care of business. And it wasn't particularly close either. So kudos to them. Their defense has been spectacular also. Top to bottom, Colts might be the most complete team in the AFC right now.
Joey, 20-6 at halftime, and then obviously 41-20 is the final. Colts defense is also playing well. But I would imagine their coaching staff, everybody on that organization, let's go into Tennessee. All right, let's go to Nashville, and let's go steal one. Let's take one from them. We have the ability to do so. Let's get this over with quick and early.
Absolutely. And, they realize Tennessee doesn't scare anybody. They don't have any explosive wide receivers. They don't have an explosive running back. The quarterback has an explosive arm, but he's young. Offensive line is young and still trying to find their way. So they really offensively, they don't scare you. So you can do whatever you want to do. You can play man and you can blitz a lot of it if that's what you want to do, because the receivers don't scare you. So you aren't forced to play a shell on them.
And they don't have an answer for it yet either, right? You got a rookie. Right. This is his third game, and he doesn't know how to – he's figuring it out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying, deep crossing routes are killers for anybody that wants to run man, but he's not there yet. You just said they don't have the receivers, and he doesn't have the time to do that. They don't have an answer for some of the defensive simplicity that they're facing, at least not yet.
Correct. And defensively, they aren't a bad team defensively, but again, right. It's a team sport. So your defense can only do so much if your offense is not moving the ball, putting you in bad position, keeping you on the field longer than you should be. So, they have a long way to go from that standpoint. I think they knew, obviously, is rebuilding. Hopefully they'll be a playoff team by the time the new stadium's built.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get that construction done. Hurry it up. All right. The team that last week we were going, come on, man. They played so badly on Sunday night. JJ McCarthy's out. You go with Carson Wentz. You think that this isn't going to be – what on earth takes place? I mean, it was 34-3 at halftime, Joey. The Minnesota Vikings just turned something around, whatever it was. It's in the water. But the Bengals were awful, and they sure proved it throughout the whole game. 48-10 is the final there. 2-1 Bengals, 2-1 Vikings. That's how they finished this one up.
Right. Carson didn't play too bad at all, to be quite honest with you. He did some good things. But the game was won on the defense side of the ball. Let's be clear. You had one kid who probably he had interception for a touchdown. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Defensively. Oh,
didn't they put him in the Hall of Fame already? They were talking about him during the game. I thought he was already inducted. He's got his gold jacket. He doesn't have to play anymore.
Hey, he may be. If he plays like that one more week, they may do.
I'm sorry. You have to wait one more, not 5 years. You got to wait one more week.
Right. Okay. We're being premature. One more week and he can go in. But
what am I thinking? I'm sorry.
And Cincinnati, Jake Browning is what we thought he was. And it's just stuff.
You just gave me a Dennis Green line. You went back 15 years, didn't you? They are who we thought they were.
I sure did.
Oh my goodness!
But you know, Joe Burrow is such a special guy. Anyone you put behind center was going to struggle. Because let's be honest, their offensive line is not great either. So they struggle that, which is one of the reasons why Joe Burrow is on the sideline now. So, you know, that was an interesting game. Minnesota really put the hammer down on them. And obviously they have a big game coming up with Pittsburgh and in Dublin, Ireland this upcoming week.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Steelers in just a second. Brian, first and foremost, your thoughts here. Were they just plain awful, or was it because they have a different quarterback in and some things didn't go right? They only rushed for 53 yards versus 169 for the Vikings. I mean, nothing seemed to work yesterday for the Bengals.
Well, typically, if you're going to have, you know, a young quarterback, a backup quarterback, any sort of like emergency situation that the Bengals are kind of in at that position, you kind of want to run the football, right? Run the football a little bit, slow the game down, take some pressure off the guy. And Cincinnati, they just couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Every time Jake Browning was back there, it seemed like he's running for his life. Now, this was kind of a, you know, Minnesota, they got kind of punched in the mouth the week before, right? Because Atlanta, a team who looked really bad on Sunday, they ran all over the Vikings, right? They did kind of whatever they wanted on offense except find the end zone. But this was sort of a, you know, kind of puff your chest out like, hey, we could still play, right? They needed to kind of show something, and they did. Minnesota did. It's a home game against a team that, you know, the Bengals are just – they're in the spot they're in, right? And they've been there for multiple years now. You can only say so much about it. But, you know, the only stat I really need to look at is Chase Brown, your starting running back, at 10 carries for 3 yards. That's about it. That's kind of the you know, the story of the game. Isaiah Rodgers, like you guys mentioned, was fantastic. 2 defensive touchdowns, but – they feasted. They did whatever they wanted on defense. I think this is a definitely a confidence builder for that team, you know, moving forward. Carson Wentz played well enough to where if they need to, I feel like they could send him out another week or two and let McCarthy rest and get 100%. But Minnesota, like they're still a very good football team. They won 14 games last year. I will say Jordan Mason looked fantastic. Mm-hmm. He looked very, very good. And, you know, a lot of people were kind of wondering about him because he was in the Shanahan system and whether or not it's just, hey, anyone can kind of thrive in that scheme where almost every running back has, but it's getting to, you know, for me, I'm looking at it and say, hey, maybe they're just, Kyle Shanahan's just really, really good at finding quality running backs you can kind of plug in anywhere because he played fantastic. He was the anchor for this offense. You know, they did the exact opposite of what Cincinnati wanted to do, right? Cincinnati couldn't run the ball at all for their, you know, emergency quarterback situation, and Minnesota came out and ran the ball incredibly effectively. And, you know, that's kind of the story of the game.
Jordan Mason, 16 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. The Vikings go to 2-1. Steelers are also 2-1, guys. This is your team, Joey. I'm going to say as candidly as I can, they shouldn't have won that game. I'm going to tell you right now. 4 turnovers by the Patriots. A close game up until the very end. It was 14-7 at the half. It ends up 21-14. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was 21-14 as the final. Joey, your first and foremost, your thoughts about your Steelers.
Well, the defense showed up, you know, and albeit versus the Patriots, a young team that's still trying to find their way, but the defense showed up. The defense calls some of those plays and calls the turnovers and calls the interception in the end zone on the scoring play. So you flip that, you prevent a score, and then you go down and score. That's a 14-point swing. So did the Patriots outplay them? They sure did, but the Steelers found a way to win in still a tight fashion. So I'm excited about that. I'm still excited about the quarterback. Now, the quarterback, I think the receiver got hurt a little bit. The kid from Seattle. So you know, we'll see how he right. We'll see how he's able to play this upcoming week. But finally, the defense showed up. I mean, they were the 29th or 30th ranked defense coming into the game, and JJ. Watts had no sacks coming into the game. So it's interesting. They were able to turn it on this game. So hopefully this will catapult them to play better this season.
Brian, your thoughts here. I mean, you're the one who pointed out 5 turnovers. Are you kidding me? Who can win against that? But it was still a close game right till the very end.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers' offense didn't look all that great. It was a lot like what Miami did. A lot of short stuff, a lot of quick hitters. You know, Joey touched on it last week. I don't know how much Rodgers and Arthur Smith trust this offensive line currently. Jaylen Warren didn't have he was okay, but he didn't have an incredibly effective day on the ground. If you're the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson had 2 fumbles. Antonio Gibson had a fumble. At what point do you kind of turn it over to Travion Henderson, a kid who they drafted really high and they're very high on themselves? Maybe I don't know if it would have been a difference maker, but two of these turnovers are inside the 10-yard line, right? That's red zone. You're leaving points on the board. You can't do that. That's a no-no. You can't do that. But Drake May didn't play terribly. He was okay, but again, he's playing against a really good defense. This is the defense that we kind of thought the Steelers would have all season, right? Maybe not the 5 turnovers, 5 sacks, but it was something close to this. And if you can go out and have an offensive performance like they did on Sunday, your defense can win you a football game. More power to you if you're Pittsburgh.
2-1 Steelers. They're 2-0 on the road so far this year. Patriots are 1-2, and both their losses are at home. So that is a quick look at that game. Next going for us, another one of these special teams games. I can't imagine a guy taking longer to go about 60 yards. But, you block a kick and then you pick it up on a scoop and score. You got to admit that was pretty amazing. 33-26 is the final. Rams are 2-1 now. Eagles are 3-0 after getting booed at home with the lead. Unbelievable. I remember that happening to me back in 1991 on a Monday night game. Now, I'm sorry, it wasn't they didn't have the lead. It was 19-7 at the half. But I know Eagle fans. I know you tell me how much you love your team. You tell me that, but you boo them off the field. So stop it. Just throw hot dogs at anyone wearing a Cowboys jersey. But Joey, first and foremost, Rams, another tough loss in Philadelphia. They had one in late January last year in the snow. This time the weather wasn't a factor, but they just see it just slip out of their hands there against the Eagles, and another tough loss there for Los Angeles.
They did. They had a big lead, and then the Eagles find ways to win, which is what good football teams do. And then big Jordan Davis at the end blocking the kick, and then being able to scoop it up and run for a touchdown at 336 pounds.
How long did it take him to get across? About 4.5 minutes, right? To get that.
You know what? He was clocked at over 18 miles an hour.
He's pretty quick.
I love it. No, I'm serious. I love that, man.
He was, but
that's the memory of the rest of his. He can talk trash in the locker room for the rest of his life. Hey, when did you block a kick and return it? I don't care how long it took me. Did we win the ball game? Did we need that? I love it. Absolutely.
Hey, the 2 Georgia boys block kicks. It's hard for me to say that both Georgia boys blocked the kick.
Well, the University of Georgia Eagles is they're 3-0, right?
Absolutely.
Are they ranked number 5 by the AP, and they're waiting for the UPI to come out with a number for them? Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're undefeated, right? You got to put them in the top 5, right?
That's right. They both are.
26 points. That's the total that obviously the Rams had, but 26 points in the third and fourth quarter, Brian. Eagles, you know what? If I have a bad half, something happens at halftime, you straighten some things out. Next thing you know, that to me is a mark of a championship team. They're wearing Super Bowl rings because of that. That to me was a sign that we're not done yet in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and on the last play of the game, I think the only person who didn't enjoy that were the bettors that had the Rams at -3.5 coming into that. But, yeah. It was really ugly in the first half. Rams looked like the much better football team, and they didn't even play their best ball, right? Stafford had an interception. He didn't have a ton of yards, and that was kind of the theme throughout. The Eagles' defense held pat. Give them a lot of credit because there were a lot of heads hanging and, a lot of sour faces on the sideline for about 2.5 quarters in this football game until the offense finally woke up, right? I think Jalen Hurts and that entire offense oh, hey, guys, we can throw the ball. We're allowed to throw the ball down the field because they haven't done it for 3 weeks now. But, they're 3-0. Saquon Barkley didn't play a great game. The offensive line kind of struggled a little bit. Give the Rams pass rush some credit, too. They got some guys up front. Jared Verse is tremendous. But A.J. Brown looked like A.J. Brown again. Devontae Smith looked really, really good. Jalen Hurts looked like the guy who, was maybe the best quarterback on the field in the Super Bowl. And they end up getting a win. They played well when they needed to. Honestly, this might be a blessing in disguise, that terrible first half. It might have been a wake-up call for the Eagles to say, oh, yeah, that's right. We're pretty good at football. Super Bowl hangover maybe is a little bit over, and we're capable of coming back and beating anybody because, the Rams are a very good football team. Probably the favorites in the NFC West right now. They got a ton of talent. They've been there too. That game last year to go to the Super Bowl, they were right there with them. Go to the NFC title game. They were right there with them. And, give a lot of credit. Kyron Williams played pretty well, but I think as of right now, it's still the Eagles are the toast of the town in the NFC.
Well, the Packers could be there, but they ended up losing a close one on a field goal that was blocked.
Yeah.
Another one here that was on a field goal with no time. This is Joey, there's two coaches, and there was a commercial years ago called Bitter Beer Face where someone made this, ridiculous looking, and both coaches in the last, 5 minutes of actual game time. Just amazing. I thought the Jets at 0-3 right now, they were 0-2 going into it. They're going to get their first win. The way that they blocked that kick, scoop, and score, phenomenal. I just love it. It was great. And you see it on the sideline. We're going to win this game. And Baker Mayfield said no. 19 for 29, 233 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Baker Mayfield's going, hey, I know what you Eagles are doing up there in Philly, but we're doing some things down here in Tampa as well. Talk a little bit about the Bucs.
As I said last week, Baker is the ultimate competitor. If you leave him time on the clock, he's proven that he can move his team down to field goal position or get a score. I mean, he's been really special the last really almost year and a half. He's been a really good player, a top 5 quarterback in our league statistically.
Yeah.
And the young receiver that they have in Tampa from Ohio State, he's going to be special.
Buka?
Yeah.
He's going to be a special player. And the Jets, what can I say? I worked for the Jets for 17 years. I played for Tampa for a year. It's crazy, but the Jets played hard. They really had a chance to win the game. And Aaron Glenn, who one of the guys when I was with the Jets that we drafted. So I'm telling my age on that as well. But I tell you what, he is really going to be a good head coach, but he's going through the same learning curve as rookie quarterbacks go through, most of them. I mean, it's tough for him right now and tough for that team.
Well, Brian, the Buccaneers rushed for 122 yards. We gave you Baker's stats already. They're building a confidence level that I think is pretty interesting right there. Even when they give up a block kick, which is probably one of the worst things that can happen. And Joey, you probably know better than anyone the statistical numbers. You have a kick blocked against you for a touchdown, your chances of losing goes up dramatically. Except if you got Baker Mayfield right now. He was tough enough to say, not going to happen.
It's amazing.
Really I almost want to have Baker Mayfield have the football when we're losing, right? Because I don't know if the Bucs have lost a game in 2 years when Baker gets the ball last, right? It's just he's been spectacular. He wins the game when he needs to. Mike Evans was banged up. Didn't even matter, really. Didn't matter. He left the game. And they still go down the field. Hey, listen, I'm at the point now where I feel like I go play receiver for a couple downs for them, right? And if we got the ball,
he'll hit you. You don't even have to
run through a wall for Baker Mayfield. Hey, I love this guy. The city loves this guy. Listen, he said it was an emotional game for him because Steve Wilkes is the guy in Carolina who basically said, "Hey, I don't think you can play anymore." And he cut him loose, and you could tell he was a little. He's a competitor now. He's a fierce guy, right? The Jets they're a very solid defense. They got that's been the one place where they consistently been able to play really good defense. And even though they were banged up coming into the game, they still don't have Godwin. Evans leaves. Ibuka was questionable. He still played a tremendous game. They ran the ball when they needed to, but you feel fair in Glenn, right? Because he's running neck and neck with I don't remember who it was that took the ball back on the block kick, but he's running right there parallel with them, right? I don't know if they clocked him, but he was right down the field with him. He was flying. Give credit to him. You could kind of tell this is a young team, right? Justin Fields didn't play. You're going into a team, or you're going to a hostile environment against the Bucs, who are 2-0. They're the head of their division. They've had a ton of success the last couple of years, and hey, they punched above their weight class. They held their own. They didn't quite pull it out, but this is kind of like, hey, you turn on the tape, you say there's one or two things we could do differently, maybe for next time, right? Mm-hmm. And you're able to learn from it and build on it, and that it's a building year for the Jets.
Yeah, right? Tyrod Taylor probably throws the ball a little bit better than Justin Fields right now, and Tyrod does some good things for them. So I don't think they missed Justin's legs, but I don't think they missed a whole lot with Tyrod playing.
Yeah. Garrett Wilson looked pretty good. Hey, he liked having Tyrod Taylor out there. He had 10 catches and a touchdown. He was great, but Jets are figuring it out, right? I don't think there's a lot of expectations. They're just, hey, let's improve, let's build something with Aaron Glenn, right? He's a young coach. They're going to give him a lot of time. I don't think it really matters, what happens. The results are, as long as we're better from week 1, we're better week 17 than we were week 1. I think they're going to be fine, and they look a lot better week 3 they did, last week. So kudos to them.
Well, and the New York teams are 0-6.
Yeah, they say, hey, look, hey, New York media, don't talk about us. Talk about the other guys. Look at Daniel Jones, how well he's playing. Look at the Giants. Don't talk
New York
about
City's going to say, well, the state of New York is 3-6, okay? Because we're going to add
the Bills.
We don't root for them. We're going to add them. They count in that survey. I said this when I first moved to Atlanta. It was 1991. The Braves went from worst to first. And I can't tell you how many times I would turn the TV off because I had to go to practice the next morning, and they're trailing 2-1. And in the morning, you wake it up, they win 3-2. Or they're trailing 5-2, and they win 6-5 or something like that. When the Jets learn to win these close games, they're losing the close games right now. At least they're close. They're not getting blown away like some of these other teams we're going to talk about. But they lose the close. And then when they start winning one by a field goal with no time on the clock, and the juvenation that you have in that locker room, and when it's genuine and real, there's something special there, and you play a little bit differently. And they're not quite there yet, but don't be disappointed, Jet fans. It's going to turn around. You got a lot of holes in the boat right now. You got to plug a few things one at a time. But
they're 2 possessions away though from being 2-1, right? One possession against Pittsburgh and one. I mean, they're right there. They're right there. They're figuring it out. They're going to figure it out. But
well, would it, could have, should have, and ifs and buts. I get it. But
right.
They're not there. They're 0-3. That's the reality. You are what your record says you are. I'm going to pull a quote from Bill Parcells. But anyway, so 0-3 the Jets. They're 0-1 away. Raiders end up with a road game. They head up to Washington to take on the Commanders. And let's be honest, Raiders, they were close, but not close enough. 41-24 is the final. What are my stats here? I got Marcus Mariota, of all people, 15 for 21, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Geno Smith, just a rough day. 3 touchdowns for him, 5 sacks. The Raiders just struggled. They got 93 yards on the ground. Joey, first and foremost, you also know the Raider organization pretty well. 1-2 right now. Are you okay with that? Or is that, where you expected them to be? Or give me your thoughts here on the Raiders right now.
Well, they're in a tough division. I can't say I expected a ton out of them right now. I think they're in a rebuilding mode. I think when they brought Geno over, as much as I like some of the things that Geno can do, I don't know if he's the answer. He's the end game for what they want. Yeah. So I think they are trying to find another quarterback at some point. I don't like the playmaking ability they have on the outside of receiver. Right now, Ashton Genty is in, they just aren't giving them enough carries. So I don't know what their plan is on offense. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Offensively, the offensive line is very average.
Joey, in fairness to Gente, when you're down by 21 points, you're not going to rush the ball consistently. So I'm also saying that you're absolutely right, but I'm not going to have a 100-yard game when you're down, you're trailing by 25 points or whatever it is, during certain points of the game. They were down by 10 at the half, and then they give up 2 touchdowns, so they're down by 24 in the third quarter. They got to put the ball in the air.
They have to put the ball in the air. And again, when teams know you have to when you have to throw the ball, it becomes a problem. You can't throw it when you want to. You have to throw it because you're behind. Yeah. And Washington has a really good defensive line. Washington has some pieces on defense, despite their quarterback being out. Mariota wasn't asked to do a ton. He did what was expected, and the defense kind of carried the day for the most part.
Yeah, Brian, my thoughts here is when you rush for 201 yards against anybody in the National Football League, that's a good day. And the Commanders with 41 points, and my starting quarterback is out. We still look that good against the Raiders. Game balls to everybody, pretty much.
Running back by committee there, but honestly, they're comfortable with all 3 guys. Austin Eckler ruptured Achilles last week. We wish him the best. That's very unfortunate. But Jacoby Krosky Merritt, he's been fantastic for them. Jeremy McNichols came in. He had a really long touchdown run for them. Chris Rodriguez, another guy they have. All 3 of those guys kind of, there was equilibrium, right? Everyone had about the same amount of touches. Everyone had the same amount of opportunities, and they had a ton of success with all 3 of those guys. But to have a guy like Marcus Mariota come in and play the way he did, just to be able to plug him in and say, hey, listen, I don't need your best, but if you can give me, 16 completions, give me around 200 yards at a touchdown, we got a chance to win. I think, any coach is going to be happy with that, right? Another one of those emergency quarterback situations, which is kind of becoming a trend in the league over the first couple of weeks. But, on the flip side for the Raiders, they got a kid, 3rd-year guy, Trey Tucker out of Cincinnati. He's been very, very good for them. He had 3 touchdowns on the day. He was spectacular, but not a lot other than that. A lot of people kind of been rough on Ashton Genty so far, but the offensive line has been bad. Every single one of his yards has come after contact, and he's under tremendous duress every time he touches the football. I think he's had more. I want to say there was a stat that I saw where every single one of his yards has come after contact, because almost every single one of his runs, there's a big defensive tackle or a linebacker or a defensive end just sitting right there in the hole, and it's just, he's just trying to make something happen. The Raiders, they got to build this from the ground up with the offensive line, but again, the Commanders is a game they feel like on the schedule they circled it like this should be a win for us, and that's what it was.
Well, the Raiders they're 1-2. The Commanders are 2-1. Next game we're going to look at here. Let's just talk about Carolina, because I don't even know if we can talk about Atlanta. That was just embarrassing watching them. 121 yards on 16 completions for Bryce Young. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He was only sacked once. 5.0, but 110 yards on the ground. You would have think they scored maybe 15, 20, 25 points. They ended up 30. The Falcons offense just fell apart. So, Brian, let's start with you. I watched part of it, and then I had to leave the room. I can't watch Atlanta. They fired a coach today, so the Ike Hilliard's gone. That's an interesting development, but Michael Penix is just struggling right now. Is this a rookie issue from last year that's a carryover that people are seeing in terms of defensive scouting against them, or are there other issues here that we don't really know much about, but injuries or guys that just aren't getting open? What's going on?
There's been a lot of predictability in the play calling, right? I think when you line up, formation wise and where they're trying to run the football, I think Kyle Pitts is a tremendous talent. I think he's phenomenal as far as a receiver is concerned, but I don't think this team feels particularly comfortable running the ball behind him, especially in, heavier sets, or, depending on if you got two tight ends, or even if you want to put him back at fullback, right? Because we just got finished watching the Lions. They move their guys around everywhere. I see Amon-Ra St. Brown or Sam Laporta lining up back there in the backfield, but I don't think Atlanta feels comfortable doing anything like that. So Charlie Warner's usually the lead guy. That's been a lot of the case. I think teams have figured that out. There's been a lot of predictability with the play calling. Bijan has still been fantastic, though. Give him a lot of credit. He still played really, really well. But Penix looked a little antsy. I think he looked a little uncomfortable in the pocket, and I think that's, hey, that happens with the young quarterbacks. You can kind of tell, because once they start not stepping into the throws, he's overthrowing guys like Drake London, who's, he's 6'4". When he jumps, he could probably touch the top of the backboard. So that's, kind of difficult to do. But give Carolina a lot of credit, man. This is a team that a lot of people wrote off this week. A lot of people wrote off in the division. They played Atlanta very, very well every time. I don't know what it is. Bryce Young plays his best football against the Falcons. That defensive front seems to follow suit. This is a game where you if you're Raheem Morris, maybe you just, you're meeting today or whatever it was, you pull out the game tape, you light it on fire, and you throw it in the trash can and say, all right, moving on. We're not going to talk about that game whatsoever. But they got Washington next week, so that they got to get ready to go and play another good NFC team in a couple days.
Being here for as long as I have, Joey, I got here in 91, and in 95, the very first game the Falcons played was against the brand new Carolina Panthers, and went to overtime, and we ended up winning with a field goal. The next time we played them at Clemson, their stadium wasn't ready yet, and they beat us. It is a rivalry because you never know what's going to happen. And right now, last couple times that they played, Carolina is not afraid of the Atlanta Falcons, and they sure showed it on Sunday. They didn't even have to do a whole heck of a lot, but they completely dominated, took all the air out of the balloon, and took their ball and went home. Carolina played very well for a team that struggled against everybody else. That's a good win. There were a lot of smiles on the sideline there for the Carolina Panthers.
They're a young team. They got rid of some veterans last year, and they brought in a lot of young guys, and they have a young quarterback. They're learning to win NFL games. And I think this was a big step forward for them, because they came in versus a team that had just won a big game on a short week, I believe. And they played well. They played well. The quarterback did enough not to hurt the team, and defensively, they still have some really good players on defense and in the secondary, and those guys made plays. Now, Atlanta has other issues, and that's maybe a story for another day. I know they brought their offense coordinator today. He's not going to be in the box anymore. He's going to be on the field. So they have some things they have to work through internally.
Yeah. Is there any portion of the Falcon issues that are, hey, guess what? We are not going to play any of our guys in the preseason. And here we are 3 weeks in the regular season, and we're still seeing some issues with quarterback is throwing the ball to the left and the receiver is going to the right. And there's just miscommunication out there. Any of that? They've had enough time to practice to work all that stuff out. There's got to be something else happening.
Yeah, I think that's part of it because if you have a veteran team, you can do that. If you have a young team with a young quarterback, that quarterback needs to play in the preseason at least a little bit. Okay, now you're practicing versus other teams, and that's good. You know, you're not being hit, but you're practicing versus other teams, so you're able to work on blitz pickup and that kind of thing. But you know, again, they have some internal issues going on over there, and you know.
Well, hopefully they'll get all straightened out. We'll just leave it at that. There are some issues going on. All right, the Texans, I'm sorry, both these teams are 1-2. Texans travel to Jacksonville. Texans are 0-3. They lay another egg. CJ Stroud had an okay day, Brian. 25 for 38, 204 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. They had less than 100 yards. They only had 3 points at the half. They end up with 10. Here's a playoff level team, and they're 0-3 right now. What's going on in Texas?
It's interesting because both of these teams are in the similar boat to where they had quarterbacks that started out really well and played really good football initially, and they've kind of gone in the wrong direction. Both Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud over the last couple seasons, it's almost like they regressed a little bit. I give a little bit more leniency to Lawrence because he had to deal with the Urban Meyer situation they had when he was the coach there, and they've been shuffling in and out as far as, offensive coordinators and receivers and everything that got going on there. And it looked like after week 1, they finally had a consistent run game with Travis Etienne. Houston's defense kind of stifled him. And this was sort of a game where it was kind of like a punt. Whoever maybe can make a mistake, maybe a pass interference penalty or whatever it might be to flip a field to get a field goal or something like that. But this was one of those ugly division games, right? These guys see each other a lot. They know each other really, really well. But if you're Houston right now, this is a team that 2 years ago we were talking about, hey, they were a couple of wins from a Super Bowl, right? Or potentially representing the AFC. And last year just wasn't as good. This year it's starting out about as bad as you could possibly have it. Nico Collins has finally caught some life. He did a little bit in this game and at the end of the game last week against Tampa. But the defense looks solid for Houston, but that's about all that looks really good right now. Just you're hoping Joe Mixon can come back. He can maybe light a fire on this offense, but realistically, it's becoming concerning if you're a Houston Texans fan.
Joey, the Texans at 0-3, are they that bad? Are the Jaguars getting better, or is it a little bit of both?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. CJ is a good quarterback. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback right now, top 15 quarterback, I would say. And the CJ we saw 2 years ago versus the CJ we saw now, I'm not sure there's a lot of difference, although the offensive line is considerably worse today than it was 2 years ago. Okay. The running game is worse today than it was 2 years ago. So all those things matter. So I don't want to throw the blame at CJ because that's not the case. But as a team, as a unit, offensively, they're in a worse spot today than they were 2 years ago.
Yeah. Very interesting how that perspective is going to have to change for them, to get in the playoff hunt. But right now they are 0-3 and looking up at a lot of teams, especially Indianapolis, that sky's the limit for both of them. Guys, this is one of the best games of the day, just in terms of the intensity level, the hardness of, that rivalry that they have with one another. They're playing in Los Angeles. Chargers end up holding on and winning. Joey, first and foremost, your thoughts are you surprised that the Broncos are 1-2? The Chargers are now 3-0. What's a bigger surprise to you between those two?
Probably that the Broncos are 1-2. The way they finished last season, the way that defense played for the Broncos at the end of last season, I guess I had higher expectations coming in than them being 1-2. On the flip side of that, the Chargers are a really good football team. I mean, make no mistake about it. They have a quarterback that's playing really well. They have a really strong offensive line. They have Darvin Ham. Not Darvin Ham, but the safety there that's playing great. He's playing out of his mind. They have a linebacker that's moving all over the place. Is doing really good things. the Chargers are a really good football team. And they're going to be a tough out. The only place I really have major concerns with the Chargers right now is a running back. Now, they're doing it by committee. They just lost one of their guys with Achilles.
Harris.
Right.
Yeah.
With Achilles, I believe,
yes.
for the year. But they're doing it by committee anyway. So I don't want to minimize it, but it's not a huge loss because they have running back by committee anyway. They have some solid receivers. I don't think any of them are top level, but they're great for that system. They're great for that quarterback. They get open, they catch the ball, and they make plays. So the Chargers are a really good team.
Yeah, and the Broncos defensively are pretty stout as well, Brian. It looked like even though Justin Herbert throws for 300 yards, only one touchdown there. So he was struggling a little bit to find some guys. I know Ladd McConkey had a couple of drops. You know, he wasn't open like he had been in the past. So Broncos did some things defensively to kind of mix it up and make the Chargers really kind of have to work a little bit harder for it. What did you see?
Well, I will say this. I think Denver might be the best 1 and 2 team of football right now because their 2 losses to the Chargers at the buzzer, right? And then they lose to the, on a fluke penalty, right? You can kind of go back and kind of argue it either way. But, realistically, they should be able to say, hey, we went into LA and beat the Chargers and we went into Indianapolis and beat the Colts, who are 2 teams that we're looking at right now are the, top of the AFC. They're right there. Bo Nix didn't play his best game. He didn't turn the ball over, though, which was good for him. Only 150 passing yards. Cortland Sutton had a big touchdown at the end of the half. They played well when they needed to. They ran the ball decently well.
118 yards on the ground, yeah.
Yeah. I will say this. This is a revamped Chargers defense. You can look at the receiving core and say, hey, Quentin Johnson is looking like he was the kid from TCU a couple years ago, right? He looked like one of the best receivers in the class. Yes. He's playing tremendous football. He had the bet. They had Pat Surtain on him as well for most of that game, and he had one of the best games that Pat Surtain has unfortunately given up as a defensive back. So Ladd McConkey was a guy they leaned on heavy last year, but again, they really haven't needed him a whole heck of a lot. He's been there when he needs to be, but this Chargers defense looks very balanced, right? It looks like a Harbaugh offense and a team all around, right? They can run the ball, they can throw it, they can kind of do what they need to do. But Justin Herbert looks very confident. He's making a lot of throws that, the past couple of years were incompletions, or maybe they just missed a guy or it was interception. And they're 3-0 in the division 3 weeks in. I don't think there's anybody in football who's in a better spot than where the Chargers are right now. But both these teams are very good. Don't be surprised if both of these teams are playoff teams. It was a phenomenal game, and it was just unfortunate for if you're the Broncos to where, hey, we didn't get in on the block kick party at the end of it, right? We weren't one of the teams this week.
Yeah. Shame on them for not doing that. But still, nonetheless, another win. And 3-0 is definitely a really good place to be at this time of the year. One place I really want to be, and that's where the Hoodats hang out. Joey, it was 21-0 in the first quarter. I think a lot of folks were looking for the bags that they used to wear over their head in the 70s and going, do I have one of those still laying around? I know they're plastic now, but can I put a hole in the bag with the teardrops on it? Tough times right now in New Orleans. They're struggling as an organization. They're just not looking good.
They aren't. And again, I don't know if that's the quarterback situation. I don't know if it's, they have guys in and out of the lineup at receiver. They, as much as I like Kamara at running back, they still need some explosion out of the running back position. Defensively, they have some age on the defensive line. So I think they're still trying to find their way, and it's not a good look, and I don't know how much better they're going to get. But on the flip side of that, Seattle has looked good for 2 weeks in a row. They played great versus the Steelers, and they played great yesterday. So they aren't one of the teams that play to the level of competition. They've shown up here lately, and appears they're getting better and better each week.
Yeah, it was 38-6 at halftime, Brian. I mean, if you're a Saints fan, it's tough. But you know what? It's almost like we could go home or at least go have some salmon tacos and some Starbucks if we're at the Seahawks game, because it was over. It was over in with total scoring. It was over at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. Jackson Smith
Darnold played well, only 218 yards, but you know what? Do what you need to. And I don't need to run the score up or anything like that. But right. I think they're very happy that he's there right now.
Hey, let's run the ball a little bit. Let's get out of here. Let's stay healthy. Let's choose some clock because they're already down a running back. Zach Charbonnet didn't even play in this one for Seattle. But Jackson Smith-Njigba looks like a real number one receiver, right? He's been
You liked him.
fantastic for them.
You've talked about him a lot, haven't you?
I watched him play in the Rose Bowl and break every receiving record that they had for how long they played that game. And I said, hey, this kid might be pretty good. He might have some potential here. But listen, he's done it with a couple different quarterbacks who maybe aren't household names. You know what I mean? Sam Darnold slinging him the ball now. It was Torrey Horton looked really, really good. The wide receiver they have out of Colorado State. He's had 2 consecutive weeks with a special teams touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. Listen, New Orleans right now, a lot of questions. I think a lot of it is just talent, right? I just don't think they have the same talent that a lot of these other teams have. And, it's shown up on the field. Listen, this is one of those games where you're sitting here saying, hey, listen, at least we're a little bit closer to the number 1 overall pick if you're the Saints, right? I guess that's the goal at this point because this team just doesn't look very good. Rattlers played okay.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara is still fun to watch, right? He's still a phenomenal player. But they don't have the same road graders that they had up front when he was there as rookie year, when they had Drew Brees there. They had, even when Derek Carr was there, right? Yep. Offensive line is a shell of what it used to be. A lot of the defenders they have, they still got some guys on defense that are, solid guys, but they're getting up there in age. And it's just, it's just a culmination of all these things. But also give credit to Seattle. They're one of those teams. I mentioned the Broncos earlier. They're a possession away from being 3-0, right? And being on top of the NFC West. So give them some credit. They've played really, really well. Again, this is one of those games where they took care of business. They watched the film. They said, hey, we should beat these guys handily, and they did.
Alvin Kamara, 18 carries, 42 yards, no touchdowns, but he was the leading rusher in this game. I think Seattle just said, I'll go let the ball boy and a few other guys play here in the third and fourth quarter. But anyways, all right, let's move on. The game we were nationally want to look at, Cowboys just didn't have a whole heck of a lot. CeeDee Lamb gets hurt. Caleb Williams kind of had a little breakout. I've been waiting for a while for this. 298 yards, 4 touchdowns for this young man. 31-14 is the final there. Joey, first and foremost, your thought about the Bears. They've got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? Beating the Cowboys at home, doing so handily, their locker room and their preparation for next week should be pretty nice because they finally get the monkey off their back and get their first win.
Yes, I was excited by the development of Caleb Williams. He's done a lot of good things. He's progressively getting better. It's never going to be perfect for a young quarterback who's been through 2 head coaches and 3 offensive coordinators in 2 years. So it's never going to be easy, but you can see the improvement week by week. So I'm excited by that. He's got a couple of receivers that he can depend on. He's got a tight end that he can depend on. So he's got some pieces. The offensive line played much better this week. Now Dallas plays optional defense down there, so you never know. Hey, it's like Forrest Gump. It's like a box of chocolate.
If only they had a quality pass rusher that could help them get off the field. You know what I mean? If only they had one of those guys in the building.
A pass rusher, a linebacker with instincts, a cornerback that can intercept the ball. They've got a multitude of issues.
Yeah.
Well, and CeeDee Lamb, they're going to make up their mind in the next couple of games.
And by the way, yeah.
Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead and finish up with them.
Well, I'll say this. Ben Johnson's teams, if you watch the Lions over the past couple of years, he distributed the ball really well, right? Your tight end's going to get a catch. Your backup tight end's going to catch. Both running backs are going to make plays. Caleb Williams threw passes and completed passes to 8 different receivers in this game, right? That's nice. When you can sprinkle the ball around and everybody's a threat in the passing game, it opens it up, right? That's what Bears fans have been screaming for. DJ Moore scored a touchdown. Romo Dunze scored a touchdown. Luther Burden, who's a tremendous talent at wide receiver. I love him. Yes. He scored a touchdown. He's a vertical threat. Listen, if they catch fire, I don't know if they're there yet with how good this division is, but I guess the Cowboys right now, your get-right game for an offense, right? Just because they can't stop anybody. I mean, the Giants last week looked like the best show on turf. It was ridiculous. But kudos to the Bears. They did a tremendous job. Caleb was nothing but efficient. They ran the ball. They did everything they needed to win. If you're the Cowboys, not a lot of silver linings as far as the first couple. I guess Javonte Williams has looked pretty good. The offensive line has held up better than some people thought. But now with no CeeDee Lamb, it's going to be a lot of Jake Ferguson, and hey, you went and got George Pickens. He's going to have to kind of earn his keep now.
I wouldn't bank on that.
Both teams
from experience, right? From experience, yeah.
Both teams are 1-2 going into week 4, but big momentum shift there for the Chicago Bears, and good for them. They finally get their first win of the season and Cowboys have to listen to Jerry talk about how there are no problems and we're going to be just fine. So we'll see how that goes. Cardinals 2-1 now, losing 16-15 in a game of this was close. And do you want to win it more than I do? But the thing that I walk away with, Bosa is out for the rest of the season for the 49ers. But you know what? They're 3-0. And if there's any team that could be scarier than the 49ers when they're completely healthy, I'd like to know who that is. But right now they just don't look like the same 49ers, but it doesn't matter. They're still 3-0. Joey, your thoughts here about San Francisco?
Again, another team that played with a backup quarterback who actually played not too bad for them.
Yep.
McCaffrey played well. So offensively, they do some good things. And defensively, they play well enough to win this game because Kyler Murray is a handful. He runs around like a little joystick back there, and he can be accurate at times with the ball. And I didn't pay a ton of attention, but I'm curious about the development of Marvin Harrison Jr. I really would like to see him become a number one receiver, but I'm not sure. We're in year 2 of this, and he's certainly not a number one type receiver right now. So I'm curious to know what's happening. And they lost their running back for a year,
James Conner.
Conner, he's out. So the Cardinals are in a precarious position from that standpoint of a mixture of young and old, and they have injuries that's starting to creep up. Will this be the same old Cardinals that get out to a pretty good lead and then at the end of the season they're nowhere to be found? But the 49ers, again, have a chance, but, Purdy's got to get back. You've already lost the defensive end. Who's your number one receiver? Ayuk may not be back for 3/4 of the year. The kid from Florida played okay. But, you just – this is going to be an interesting division. The Rams and the Seahawks will be the class of this division.
You heard it here first, Brian. So forget the 49ers. Good. Joey says the 49ers, now forget them. They're not, you didn't. I never said that. I didn't say that, Harper. But, you've got 3 teams that just like in the NFC North that can make the playoffs. At least right now, they're positioning themselves that could be a possibility. Your thoughts, Brian?
Well, 2-1 in this division right now has you in last place.
Yeah.
Everyone in this division is winning. They're finding ways to win games. Joey, to touch on what you said about Marvin Harrison, he had 2 drops in that game that really could have flipped the outcome, right? Now you still got to go out and make the field goal, but I mean, one of them was he turns around, he catches it, he turns around, it's a touchdown. All he's got to do is outrun the safety. And I don't know if he's in his own head or what they got going on there. They still have Trey McBride, who I really like. I think he's one of the best tight ends in the league. And that, it's unfortunate what happened to James Conner because they had, Trey Benson, who they're putting into the fold, and Conner. They had a nice 1-2 punch going, right? Where they always have somebody fresh in the backfield and they can hit you with different looks, kind of the thunder and lightning trend that seems to be, everyone's trying to copy what the Lions are doing. But on the flip side of this, Mac Jones might be playing himself into a starting role next season, or at least a chance to compete for one in camp, right? Maybe with the young quarterback on a different team because, man, he's not been tremendous, but he's doing more than enough to help them win games. I'm going to go my first read, my second read, and check it down. Christian McCaffrey had 10 catches, right? So he did that plenty. But, he's getting wide receiver 1 production out of Ricky Pearsall. George Kittle's still not back. This could be a team that's maybe teetering. I know they're written off, right? Joey says these guys are done, but maybe when, if he does come back this season, because again, there's no guarantee, maybe they got a chance to compete. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think Seattle's a little bit better. I think the Rams, yesterday for 3 quarters, I thought they might have been the best team in the NFC, but listen, Shanahan's got his guys. They're no strangers to injuries, and they just keep finding ways to win games.
Joey, you got any other thoughts before we move on? Because the 49ers,
I'm just afraid. And the 49ers are a good football team, and it's a really good organization. I'm just afraid that their key players, the attrition that they're having through injury is going to be a big problem for them all year. Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to wish bad luck on anybody, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to count on Christian McCaffrey all year long, especially with the usage he's about to
What did the Niners do, right? Just with the injury, did they upset the football gods with all the injuries they've dealt with over the last 3-4 years,
Crazy,
right?
right?
It's
It's
ridiculous.
not just this year. There's been several years.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting phenomenon. But they're 3-0, and they get their first home win. They'll probably play another home game. I don't have their schedule in front of me, but it should be 2 home and 2 on the road after 4. Let's go look at this one. Are the Chiefs back, guys? Are they back? Brian, we'll start with you. Nothing to see here. Just keep moving on. They're 1-2. 22-9 is the final there. The Giants, Russell Wilson, what was his number? Russell, 18 for 32, so just a little over 50%, 116 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. After what you saw last week, Brian, almost 2 completely different quarterbacks there in New York. Same guy, but he threw for almost 400 yards last week, and this week he was struggling.
I'm hearing rumors Jackson Dart's getting his shoulder loose on the sidelines. We might be seeing him sooner rather than
he warming
later.
up in the bullpen?
Yeah, he's getting loose. But, the crazy thing is, if you look at a lot of the play calling, it was very similar to the week before. It's just the Chiefs are saying, hey, we have the guys that can actually stop this, right? We have a decent secondary. We trust our guys up front. If you're the Giants, Cam Scatterbo looked pretty good. Tyrone Tracy got banged up. He landed pretty badly on his shoulder. They took him out of the game, and Scatterbo came in and he played pretty well. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot else. They kind of limited Malik Neighbors, what he was able to do. I don't think he had a catch until the fourth quarter. But the Chiefs' defense has been here all year, right? They've been very, very good. They've been very, very consistent. They've kept this, team in games. They played a very good Chargers team. They played a very good Eagles team, and both games, the defense played well enough to win the game. The problem is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and that offense just very lackluster.
Yeah.
I don't think the offensive line is bad, but the run game is horrendous. They're not getting any production from Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. And even for Patrick Mahomes, as Chris Collinsworth would say, it's very, very difficult to throw the ball down the field and create big plays and to, score points when you can't run the ball. And I know they got a couple more weeks until Rashee Rice is back, and I'm interested to see how they look when that happens. But not a lot of highlight plays from this Chiefs offense through the first almost month of the season.
Your thoughts, Joey?
Yeah, the Chiefs still haven't found their stride yet, and they look really dysfunctional at times. Even Patrick and Travis. I mean, there was one play that comes to mind where Patrick is scrambling, and he's used to Travis. Or Travis at times he'll run the route he's supposed to, but then he has the freedom to add on to it. Okay, and I think Patrick was expecting him to add on to it, and Travis just stopped, and he missed him. That was a throw he would have made 9 out of 10 times. And, I mean, it looked really bad. So, offensively, I think they came into the year with one plan. Then you have a guy hurt. You got a suspension here. You got another guy that's coming back from injury. So, I don't think they've caught their stride yet offensively. Defensively, they have been good, not great. They weren't great versus the Eagles, I didn't think for sure. But, they're getting better defensively. The kicker, missed a couple kicks, I believe, yesterday. At least one field goal, if not 2. I think they're still trying to find their stride. And it's going to get late early because they're going to be behind the Chargers if they don't watch out by a lot. So they have to pick it up.
Yeah, they're 1-2 right now, and the Chargers are 3-0, and Giants are 0-3, and they're struggling a little bit. Well, the game of the evening here tonight, and we waited till this one was over before we went on the air. I think Dan Campbell may have had a players-only meeting where he was the only coach there, and I think he told them to kind of man up a little bit because they look great tonight on the road. Against Baltimore. Baltimore is a very good team. They're good in every facet that you can imagine. It was tied at the end of the first, the second, the third quarter, and Detroit pulls away. It's 38-30 is the final there. Jared Goff throws for 202 yards. Lamar Jackson had 288, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for him. Derrick Henry, are you surprised, Joey? 12 carries for only 50 yards, 4.2 per. He had a touchdown, but I'm thinking in a game like this, they total 85 yards on the ground. Baltimore's rushing wasn't anywhere close. David Montgomery, 151 yards for him. Jahmyr Gibbs had 67, 224 on the ground for the Lions. I'm just saying for our folks there, I know you guys know these numbers. I just wanted to give a couple of them that give you a little idea of what happened. Close game up until the end, and then Detroit kind of pulls away with it and wins by 8.
Baltimore has issues versus the run. Their defensive line versus the run, I'm not going to say it's bad. They're just not very good right now.
Okay.
Detroit has a really good offensive line. They've been playing good for 2 years now. Even losing pieces, they're playing pretty good. And they ran at will. Whatever they needed, they could run. There was a 98-yard drive where they went down the field, 9 plays, scored a touchdown, and they ran the ball most of that drive. And they had 2 drives over 95 yards that they scored touchdowns on. Defensively, Baltimore has some issues. Offensively, they're still pretty good. The fumble by Derrick Henry late in the game was probably one of the key plays in the game, along with Detroit 4th and 2 late in the game when they probably could have punted. It was on their side of the field. Dan goes for it, and guess what? They get it. They get 7 yards, and
Does that remind you anything like? Remember what the old New York Giants with Parcells and Belichick and Lawrence Taylor, and they'd line up in a punt, and then the personal protector would line up under center, and he'd see something, and they go for it, and they get the 4 yards that they needed. Is Detroit doing stuff like that to where you go, you better play us every snap? We can do something, a trick play, a fake punt, all the different stuff. They pull stuff out like that more than anybody else nowadays, except for maybe the Eagles.
Yeah, they will do that. But on that play, they said, we're just better than you are. We're not afraid of you. And it's 4th and 2 on our side of the field. And we need this to close out the game with, I think it was like 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. We dare you to
stop. Got it. Yeah, stop us.
It's working. I think they had a meeting. They did something because they played hard. This was a game that they wanted to win on the road. And Brian, I think they waited 1, 2, 3 quarters. They're 55 minutes into this game, and then they pull away. They were up a late touchdown there by the Ravens, made it a little bit closer. But this was a good win for Detroit.
Give the defense some credit too. They scored 30 points, the Ravens did, but they had 6 sacks. They had a huge goal line stand. They had 1st and goal at the 1, and the Ravens did not score. That was a massive momentum swing in this game. And like you guys were talking about the play calling, one of the touchdowns that the Lions scored, I think it was a 3rd down. They motioned Amon-Ra St. Brown into the backfield in an I-form heavy set. They hand it to him, and then they run an option play to Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know how you prepare for that. If you're a defensive, if you're playing against them on defense, I don't know. What do you do, right? And then they come out in a very heavy set where Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only receiver on the field, and they bring in David Montgomery, which all signs point, hey, they need 1.5 yards. They're going to run the ball here, right? And they say, nope, we're going to pull it. We're going to run a little play action fake over the top. The safety has to hold him. You get the 1st down and the game's over. And it's just, it's unbelievable. This is some of the stuff that we thought after maybe week 1 that, hey, maybe without Ben Johnson, they might lose some of this lacklusterness, this creativeness on offense. But I would say these are 2 teams where if it's a 4th and less than 3, or if it's like a 2-point conversion to win the game, these teams don't play for overtime, right? Both these teams, the Ravens included, they play to win. And It's a lot of fun. And when it works, it's great. The Ravens played with them the whole time. I'd say just the Achilles heel for the Ravens so far this year, they could easily be 3-0, but Derrick Henry, ball security. It's not even that the yards have been terrible. It's just he's got 3 fumbles in 3 games. I don't know if he's had 3 fumbles in a year since he's joined, since he's been in the NFL. But listen, it was a lot of fun to watch. The Lions looked really, really good. This is a game both teams would love to have. I know the Ravens are 1-2, but I think they're still in the thick of it in the AFC. But man, it's a treat watching the Lions offense, right? Just breaking down film and watching the highlights. You're like, what? How on earth do you come up with this stuff? It's like they're playing in the backyard. It's tremendous.
Yeah, and the way that they practice, as well as I do, Joey, that if it doesn't work, you're going to scrap it. You're going to take that page, you're going to wrinkle it up, and you're going to throw it away. You don't want anything to do with it. But the Lions have so many different ways of like Brian said, the creativity of just trying to do something a little bit different that gets one guy open for just enough, and then they hit him and they get the first down, they move the sticks. That's critical to playoff caliber football.
The Lions do a good job of paying attention to details. One of the things on that play you were talking about, Goff handed the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown with the laces up, with the ball straight up. That way, when he got it and he's running, he could pitch it. It was easy for him to pitch the ball.
Yep.
And that's paying attention to detail. So if you pay attention to detail with the small things like that, then usually you have great success.
Yeah. Joe Montana used to always throw that flat route to either Rathman or to Cooper or any of the guys that were running for them, and hit him on the upfield shoulder. If he's running an out route to the right, you want to hit that left shoulder just outside of it. And when you catch it, even if you get tackled right away, you fall and you gain an extra yard. You don't get knocked back at that angle. And if you get one extra step and you fall forward, now it's 2nd and 4 instead of 2nd and 7, because you just did one little thing right. So I appreciate you saying that. And Bill Walsh, was a master of that with Joe Montana, and the two of them together, it was like butter, through a hot knife through it. And there are times where Detroit shows me that, and I go, they are practicing in a way that's different than everybody else is. I'm not touting them. They still need to go to a Super Bowl. They got a long way to go, but I really like watching them and their creativity. Any final thoughts here? Brian, we'll start with you.
I think we're kind of starting to separate a little bit, right? I know it's only week 3, but we're starting to say the teams that, are 2-1, 3-0, maybe a couple teams that are 1-2, they're kind of teetering. We're kind of waiting to see where they go. But I think a lot of teams we thought would be contenders are there. And then you get teams like the Colts who are pleasant surprises, who you're saying, hey, man, this is a team that they're a lot of fun to watch too. A lot like the Lions, probably not on that level yet, but they play good football. The offense looks great. And, some teams on the flip side of that, they'll look really, really bad. There's been some ugly football. A lot of games this week where, you could kind of tell that there's some teams that kind of need to go back in the film room and figure some things out. But we're almost a month in. I can't believe it's already we're already almost a month over. Joey,
final thoughts by you?
Yes, teams starting to figure out who they are as a team right now. Between week 3 and week 5, you get a feel for who you are, what you can do, what you can't do. But for some teams, there's a lot of self-scouting going on, because there's some teams aren't as good as they thought they were, especially on the offensive line. I keep harping at that. And injuries have played a key part of that. So the scouting department, especially the pro scouting department, are really combing the practice squads, combing other teams, looking for trade potential. So it's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, trying to make your team better. But the self-scouting at this point in the season is crucial.
Yeah, there's injuries. There's some teams that are just hanging on by a thread, and others this early in the season, they're just plugging along and doing very well. But as I mentioned, the injury situation, it doesn't always seem to get better. It seems to get worse, and big losses for a couple of teams with Dallas and San Francisco in particular. But also with the Falcons firing a coach after 3 weeks. Watch out, guys. My head's on a swivel if I'm in Atlanta, or maybe if it's in New Orleans or New York. Goodness gracious, lots of things going on, and we'll talk about even more of it next week. This has been the end of this 3rd week here of the National Football League season. We still have 14 more to go, 15 if you count the bye weeks that are part of it. But I appreciate Joey Clinkscales for being a part of the show, Brian LeBel, and I am Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Week 3 is in the books. We'll be back next week with week 4. So thank you for tuning in. And as I said before, just have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.